Hello and welcome to another Women in TechWorks Tech Talk. This time around, we're joined by Madhuparna Datta from Cambridge, is where she is right now. And we're going to be talking about the latest trends in AI. Application Engineering Director of Cadence and UKESF Board Trustee. Madhuparna is an EDA and VLSI expert with over 25 years in the semiconductor industry with experience across the UK, India, and Sweden. Currently, she's an AE director at Cadence Design Systems. She leads digital and sign-off technical campaigns and has worked on advanced CPU, GPU, and system IP designs down to 3 nanometer. She is a passionate advocate for STEM. She founded SWE, the Society of Women Engineers Cambridgeshire affiliate, and serves as a SWE Global Ambassador and Senate member. She is an award-winning mentor, a UK ASF trustee, as mentioned previously, and she was part of the UK Semiconductor delegation to India in 2025. If you have any questions about what you're going to hear from Madhuparna over the course of the next 45, 50 minutes or so, please put them in Zoom chat and I'll ask those questions, observations, or comments towards the end of the broadcast. But enough from me. We're going to hand over to Madhuparna right now, and the floor is yours.
Ooh, thanks a lot. So hi, welcome everyone, and I will start sharing my presentation. And let's go into our lovely presentation mode. So today we will basically look at some of the cutting edge developments that is happening in the field of artificial intelligence. I'll try to cover some of the advances in generative AI, the emerging frontiers on the multimodal side of things. We have all heard of LLMs. I'll also talk about SLMs, which are more like the small language models, a bit on the agentic side, and explore a bit on the ethical and regulatory challenges, and potentially also look at some of the future direction in the field. So the question is very simple. Why is everyone talking about AI now? It isn't just one breakthrough. It's actually a perfect storm where hardware, data, and maths have finally aligned to reach a critical mass. So if you look at the drivers of the revolution, the first is, of course, the compute power. We have moved beyond standard CPUs to massive exponential growth in GPU capabilities. NVIDIA's hardware has actually shortened model training times from months to days. And I guess we know why it's, sort of touted to be the first trillion-dollar company. We also have the digitization of everything, whether it be books or code or social media, sensors, everything. And this has provided us with some massive data sets, which are actually required for deep learning to succeed. The algorithms have also shifted from simple neural networks to the famous transformer architecture, which was introduced in that paper from Google in 2017. And this has allowed models to understand the context and relationships in data far more effectively. So before 2022, AI was, mainly meant for researchers. And then ChatGPT happened and it changed the interface. It helped bring about a powerful AI from the lab to the living room via a simple chat box. The best thing to look at is the adoption curve for it. So AI is being adopted faster than any previous foundational technology. While the internet took years to reach 100 million users, generative AI reached that milestone in just a few months. So it's almost as if the infrastructure has been built and we are now in the application phase of it. So let's now look at generative AI which is like a dominant trend at the moment. The first thing to think about is the generative AI mature enough? Now, in late 2022, we all had that magic moment when ChatGPT ensured that we could actually do good conversations with a chatbot. And the novelty was simply that it could speak at all. But in the last 2 years, we have crossed a threshold. So we are moving from the wow, it speaks phase to the it actually works phase, where AI is no longer a toy, but a high functioning collaborator. One part of it is, of course, the evolution of text and reasoning. So initially, your large language models or LLMs were just sophisticated autocomplete. Now, with models like GPT-4o, Claude 3.5, Gemini 1.5, etc., we have moved into the reasoning, complex coding, and deep nuance side of things. So these models don't just summarize, they troubleshoot logic, they handle massive context windows. It's almost as if they are reading the entire libraries at once. And they have the potential to act as junior engineers. The second part of it is looking at the visual side of things. So on the visual side of things, the progress is actually staggering. We have moved from blurry, surrealist images with spaghetti fingers to the photorealism of Midjourney version 6. And beyond, just having still images, you have got tools like Sora or Runway Gen 3, which are doing, things for video that DAL-E did for images. So it's literally creating cinematic quality footage from a single sentence. Now, the barrier between AI generated and reality could soon be effectively gone. Let's also look at the audio side of it, which could potentially also have some concerning attributes. So, voice cloning has become so precise that it can capture a person's specific cadence and emotion. Meanwhile, you have got platforms like Suno, Udio, they are producing full musical compositions, which includes vocals, lyrics, and instrumentation, and they're often indistinguishable from human studio recordings. So we aren't just generating sound, we are generating professional grade media. So the takeaway here is the utility side of it. We are no longer testing if the technology works. We are now tasked with figuring out how do we integrate this near perfect output into our daily work life scenarios. So the other sort of buzzword that you probably see is the headlines around, AI hallucinating or making things up, etc. Now, if you're a consumer, it could be a quirk, but if you are an enterprise, it could become a liability. Most of the large language models or LLMs are like brilliant scholars, but they have stopped reading the news 2 years ago. So they have got this vast general knowledge, but zero day one knowledge of your specific business, your recent contracts, your private inventory. So standard AI is almost like a student taking a test from memory, whereas RAG is like giving that student almost like an open book exam with your company's specific textbook. So when a user starts asking a question, we don't go straight to the AI side of it. First, the system performs a real-time search in your secure company database. It pulls out the relevant facts and then bundles them with the original question. The AI then uses that specific context to synthesize a grounded, accurate answer. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions that we have is that, you have to teach or retrain an AI model on your data. Now, that is expensive and slow. But what RAG does is it lets you use world-class models like Gemini, GPT, etc. immediately. It acts as a bridge between the public owner and the private data. So your sensitive documents stay in your secure environment. You're only sending specific relevant snippets to the model to generate the response. And because the AI is being told to only answer using the provided text, the risk of hallucinations drops significantly. It can actually even provide citations, telling the user exactly which document the answer is from. So the key takeaway is that RAG is almost like the industry standard for making AI business ready. It transforms a creative writing tool into a reliable corporate intelligence engine. Now that we have hopefully learned a bit around the generative AI side of it, it's now time to also look at the emerging frontiers. So, the first thing that I would like to probably discuss is the multimodal AI. I call it giving AI some senses. So, for the last few years, we have interacted with AI primarily through a keyboard. We typed in some text, we got some text back, and it was like a blind system. Multimodality is almost like a big bang moment for AI. We are moving from models which are processing language to models that are actually trying to process the human experiences. AI is effectively gaining senses, vision, hearing, speech. This all is getting integrated into a single brain. Now, it's important to understand that this isn't just a text AI with a camera plugged in. These new models are getting trained on images, audio, and video simultaneously. And because the AI sees the same way it reads, it is understanding spatial relations. So it doesn't just see a fridge part, as you can see in the picture. It is understanding the depth, the wear and tear, how that part relates to the machinery around it. So let's take a use case scenario of a junior technician who is on a job site. And instead of having to flip through a 500-page PDF manual, they point their smart glasses or their phone at a broken component. And they just ask, how do I fix this? And the AI identifies the exact model. It sees the specific cracked seal, and it starts overlaying step-by-step instructions on the screen. All of this helps collapse the skills gap. So it turns every employee into a specialist by providing real-time visual guidance. We could take another scenario. So for example, say you are in a warehouse or a construction site where safety is paramount, but it is very hard to monitor 24/7. So multimodal AI can actually watch a live video feed, and it isn't just a recording, it's comprehending. It can detect if a worker isn't wearing a hard hat, if a forklift is speeding, or if a spill has occurred on this floor. And this helps move the safety from being reactive, that is looking at some footage after an accident, to being more proactive, trying to prevent the accident even before it happens. So multimodality is what makes technology invisible. You no longer have to learn how to speak to the computer. The computer has finally learned how to perceive the world exactly as we do. So the other thing I wanted to sort of touch base upon is because it's quite a buzzword is the agentic AI side of it, or as I call it, from chatbots to action bots. So for the last 2 years, we have been quite impressed by AI's ability to talk. We call this the chatbot era. But as we look forward, the focus is shifting from what AI can say to what AI can do. So agentic AI or AI agents refer to systems that don't just answer a prompt. They are trying to pursue a goal. So if a chatbot is a researcher, the agent is almost like a specialized project manager. Unlike traditional automation, which follows more of a rigid of if this happens, then do that sort of a script, agents use reasoning. They can break down a complex goal down into smaller steps and decide which tools should be used, and they can even self-correct if a step goes wrong. So if you look at the action bot framework, it has got like say three principal actors in it. One is the perception side of it, the other is the planning, and then we have the tools. So perception is all about understanding what is the user's intent and what's the current state of the systems. Planning is more about deciding the sequence of tasks. For example, check this database, then call this API, and now you can send the email. Tools are about accessing the real world, your CRM systems, your calendar, your booking software, and then executing tasks on those sort of activities. So your chatbot is almost like a consultant. So you ask for a travel itinerary. I have done it several times. It gives you a beautiful list of suggestions. So your work has only just begun because you still have to book everything. The agent is more like your executive assistant. You have given it the same goal, and the agent will not only suggest you the hotels, it would actually check your loyalty points. It would compare prices across sites. It would reserve the rooms. It would book your flights and even send out calendar invites if you have got others joining the same trip as you. It's almost like it's handling the middleman work. Now, if you look at the business impact for it, in the enterprise, this means moving from AI assistant humans to AI assist driven workflows. And a very prominent use case for it is, say, in customer support, a chatbot could tell you that this is how you can go about returning a package. However, an agent could actually process that return for you. It could generate the shipping label. It could update the inventory system. All of this without the human intervention. But the crucial part is agents do not replace humans. They just change our role. So we move from being the doers of repetitive tasks to being supervisors who set the goals and provide high-level approvals. I would see, I, I hope that by the end of 2026, we will see a lot of the competitive companies not just having the best answers, they will have the most capable agents. And we could then go about building a workforce where these digital teammates can take a goal and then run with it. So as I said that a lot of us may have learned about or heard about large language models, let's discuss more about the small language models or SLMs, which is more relevant to edge AI. So you could think of it as intelligence at the source. And I love the phrase that bigger isn't always better. So for the last 2 years, the AI race has been about more. So more data, more parameters, more power. But if an LLM is a massive supercomputer, an SLM is almost like a high performance smartphone. You wouldn't use like a truck to deliver a single package or an envelope. Similarly, you don't need trillion parameter models in order to summarize an email. So the concept that we are seeing is a move towards a fit for purpose AI. So these are models designed to be compact, efficient, and specialized rather than being general purpose. Edge AI is actually the practice of running AI directly on the edge of the network, meaning on your laptop, your phone, or even IoT sensor, rather than sending that data back and forth to a distant cloud server. This is made possible by new specialized chips like NPUs, which are called neural processing units. And these can be found in every new premium laptop and smartphone. These chips are dedicated solely to handling AI tasks locally without draining your battery. If you look at some of the leading examples that we have currently, we have got something like, say, the Microsoft 5354 models. These models prove that high quality training data is more important than sheer size. They can outperform models twice their size while running easily on a standard Windows laptop. You could also have probably heard about Apple Intelligence. This is perhaps the most famous example of Edge AI. So it uses your on-device models to handle your personal data, like your photos, your calendar, etc., so that your most private information never leaves your iPhone. Then you also have the Google Gemma, which is an open weights model designed specifically for designers and developers to build fast local applications that don't require a constant internet connection. Now, why does it matter? I would call it the triple win. The first one is, of course, about the privacy side of it. Now, here, because the data is staying on your device, there is zero risk of your sensitive corporate information being leaked into public training sets. And this is the ultimate security architecture. The second is the cost efficiency part of it. Cloud tokens, as we know, are expensive. So running AI locally is essentially free because you own the hardware. For enterprises, this means scaling AI to thousands of employees without having a skyrocketing monthly API bill. The third part of it is, of course, the reliability and speed side of it. Edge AI is virtually working offline. So whether you are on a phone or in your basement, your AI tools still function with near zero latency because there's no round trip to a server. So the key takeaway here is the future isn't going to be either SLMs versus LLMs. Most of the enterprises will have a hybrid AI strategy. So they will use the large models for complex research and strategy, while they will use the small models for millions of daily tasks, whether it be writing, searching, organizing, etc. And that's happening right on your devices. So let's also look at the business side of AI. The first part, of course, is AI governance, safety, and regulation, what I call ending the Wild West. So for the past few years, AI felt like the Wild West, where there was unprecedented growth with very few rules. That era is hopefully officially over. We are mostly entering into the age of accountability because governments, courts, and boards are now demanding the same level of oversight for AI that we apply to finance or healthcare. Just as we had the GDPR, which changed how the world handles data, the EU AI Act is probably going to change how the world builds AI. So currently we are at a very critical juncture. So as of August 2026, the full enforcement should begin for most cases. So if your AI is influencing hiring, credit scoring, or critical infrastructure, then we will all now face strict requirements for human oversight and risk logging. AI-generated content like deepfakes or chatbots must now be clearly labeled. Non-compliance can lead to fines of up to 35 million euros or even 7% of the global turnover of the company. The other aspect of it is legal cases. So we have got the New York Times versus OpenAI, which has now moved into a critical phase. Courts are actually looking at something called regurgitation. So instances where AI is spitting out copyrighted articles word for word. And this is challenging the fair use defense that AI companies have traditionally relied on. So we are now seeing a massive shift towards licensed data. The future of AI isn't just scraping things from the web. It is going to be built on high quality paid partnerships with creators. 2024 and 25 saw a surge in synthetic disinformation during global elections. In 2026, deepfakes have evolved from a political nuisance to a corporate security threat. Hackers are now using real-time video and audio deepfakes to bypass the Know Your Customer or KYC checks and biometric security. Businesses are now investing in liveness detection and blockchain-based content provenance to prove that a person or a video is actually real. If you look at the aspect of shadow AI, it's almost like the new shadow IT. Now, it's when the employees start using unvetted AI tools like a free browser extension to summarize a leaked board deck or a private client contract. Once that data has been pasted into a public AI, it's effectively gone. It could potentially be used to train future versions of that model. But the solution is not about banning AI. That just drives it further underground. Instead, we are providing sanctioned AI workplaces like Enterprise GPT or Gemini that offer privacy walls where company data is never used for training. So the key takeaway should be that governance isn't here to slow us down. It's here to make AI safe for scale. You cannot be driving a car at 100 miles per hour without brakes. So think of good regulation as providing the brakes that allow our businesses to move fast without crashing. Now, we should also look into the AI bias and fairness side of it. We often think of AI as being a very cold, objective calculator. But AI doesn't see the world as it should be. It sees the world as it was because it's relying on data that it had been trained on. So it's in fact a mirror of its training data. If that data contains historical prejudices, whether it be about gender, race, or age, the AI wouldn't just learn them, it will automate and scale them. And this is how bias in becomes bias out. So what could those hidden triggers be? The first could be data skewness. Now this happens when the data set isn't representative. So for example, the facial recognition tool, which is trained on 90% lighter skinned faces, will naturally have a higher error rate for everyone else. You could also have historical bias. So if your hiring AI has been trained on a company's past 10 years of successful promotions, and those promotions were overwhelmingly male, then the AI will learn that being male is a feature of success. The third part of it is also something called proxy variables. So even if you remove race or gender from your data set, AI can find other proxies. For example, a zip code can often act as a proxy for race, allowing the model to discriminate even when it is technically blind to sensitive attributes. So if you look at some of the real world stakes, the first of all could be hiring. So recent studies have also shown that some of the popular LLMs are still penalizing resumes with employment gaps. And this is disproportionately impacting women and caregivers. Or even it could be deprioritizing candidates based on the names of their colleges. In the world of credit and finance, there have been cases where algorithms are offering lower credit limits to women than their male spouses, despite identical financial profiles, simply because the model learned some outdated gender wealth correlations. So, how do we go about mitigating bias? Well, we need some fairness toolkits for it. Bias is often a blind spot, and you need a diverse team of developers, ethicists, and subject matter experts to ask who is missing from this data. We could have something which we call as bias fire drills. So before deployment, we need to run stress tests. We could ask the model, would you approve this loan if the applicant's name was changed from John to Jamal? And if the answer changes, the model has failed. If you look at the fairness metric side of it, we can use technical benchmarks like demographic parity, which tries to ensure the outcomes are equal across groups, or even a thing called equalized odds, which helps to ensure that the error rates, like false rejections, are the same for everyone. The bottom line is that a biased AI isn't just an ethical failure, it's a legal and brand liability. And the key takeaway here is that an accurate model that is unfair is not a successful model. Building for equity from day one builds trust with your customers and also protects your company from a massive regulatory fines coming from the EU AI Act and similar global laws. So let's have a look into the common fear that people have. So the common fear is that, oh, AI is going to steal jobs. However, the data could show a different story. So AI would not be replacing jobs, it's just decomposing them into tasks. The way to look at it is that a job is usually a collection of dozens of tasks. AI is quite excellent at the repetitive, data-heavy, and predictable ones, like summarizing meeting notes, checking code for errors, etc. So this still leaves the human parts of the job. Things like strategy, empathy, complex negotiations, and final judgment. This is still intact and you get more focused on it. So it's not as if we are getting replaced, we are just getting unburdened. The other thing to also understand is the fact that upskilling is the new hiring. So in a tight labor market, companies also realize that they can't simply hire their way into the AI era because there isn't enough pre-trained talent. So upskilling has moved from being a nice to have HR perk to almost a survival strategy. The goal is to build AI fluency. Now, this doesn't mean that every employee needs to be a data scientist. It just means that every employee needs to know how to partner with an AI agent to help improve their productivity. We are actually also seeing the birth of entirely new career paths that didn't exist even 3 years ago. So we know of now things like, say, prompt engineers, context engineers, and you could think of them as the AI whisperers. They don't just write prompts, they design the complex content and memory that allows AI to give business accurate answers. Then you have got also AI ethics and trust officers. So just as the regulations for EU AI Act are hitting full enforcement in 2026, these rules will ensure that AI systems are fair, transparent, and compliant. They are the moral compass of the tech stack. Then you also have got roles like AI data curators or trainers. So we know that the AI is only as good as its diet. So these specialists manage the high quality proprietary data that is feeding into the company's private models, thus ensuring that it's clean, unbiased, and secure. The AI adopters are also seeing some productivity gains in their specialized workflows, especially in terms of coding and customer service. Now, while these gains are real, there's still a fierce debate among economists about the productivity paradox. So, on one side, AI is clearly accelerating individual tasks, like writing something faster. But on the other side, organizations are struggling to turn this individual speed up into bottom line aggregate productivity because they haven't redesigned their core business processes yet. So it would be interesting to see whether we are moving past the look what AI can do for us to the show me the ROI side of it. So in the human in the loop model, the human is actually moving from being the doer of the task to being an orchestrator of tasks. Now it's almost like being an air traffic controller. So I know that there's been this unfortunate incident, yesterday on the Air Canada, but think of it that, it's almost as if you're not trying to fly every plane. It's the AI agents who are doing that, but you are responsible for the safety, the direction, and the ultimate success of the mission. So For the past couple of years, almost every company has, jumped on to this AI bandwagon, and they have got this cool AI demo. But many are finding themselves stuck in pilot purgatory. So it's a state where you have very promising proofs of concept, but you never quite make that jump to become resilient, value-generating production systems. It's easy to make an AI look smart in a controlled sandbox environment, but it's incredibly hard to make that same AI reliable when it is facing messy real-world data, thousands of concurrent users, and a very strict regulatory requirement. So we call it something like the 90-10 rule. So there are many teams which are spending 90% of their time picking the perfect model. But in production, this model is only 10% of the battle. The other 90% is infrastructure, data pipelines, security guardrails, cost monitoring, and integration. You also have the reliability versus novelty trade-off. So in a demo, a hallucination could be a funny mistake. But in production, like AI processing a mortgage application or a medical summary, a mistake could result in a lawsuit or a safety risk. So the era of experimenting for the sake of experimenting is over. Boards are now demanding a clear return on AI investment, or as you could call it, ROAI. So we have moved past measuring the model accuracy to measuring the impact on business. The questions to ask is, did it shorten our release cycle? Did it reduce customer resolution time? Did it lower our operational costs? So the most successful AI isn't a new destination. It's almost like an invisible layer in the tools that employees already use. And a perfect example of it is the Microsoft Copilot in Office 365. So instead of asking your employees to go into a separate website, the AI is literally living inside Word, Excel, and Teams. And the advantage is obvious because it's meeting the user where they already are. And by integrating into the Microsoft Graph environment, it has the context of your emails, your meetings, your files, and it is immediately useful without having to do any form of process relearning. So the key takeaway is that to escape purgatory, you must stop treating AI as a project and start treating it as a core infrastructure. The goal should be that instead of looking at what can this AI do, ask how does this AI make our existing business more efficient? We will also now have a look at some of the AI applications. So for centuries, art and music have been defined by physical skill, years of manual practice. And today we see AI redefining art by shifting the focus from execution to intent and curation. So we are almost moving away from AI-made art, where a machine is doing everything, to AI-augmented art, where the humans remain the director, but they are choosing the best, you could say, hallucinations of the machine to refine it into a final work. So earlier, AI was known for style transfer. So for example, say making a photo look like a Van Gogh. Now the trend is towards novelty. So it's about using AI to create almost impossible aesthetics like hyper-detailed, data-driven visualizations and architectures that are too complex for a human to draw by hand. Models like Suno and Udio are actually creating entirely new generations by blending disparate styles that can feel surprisingly authentic. The expectation is that it would now become almost like, say, the professional's co-pilot. AI's greatest value to professionals is to be their brainstorming partner. We have got designers who use tools like Adobe Firefly or Midjourney to create 50 mood board concepts in minutes rather than spending days on initial sketches. Music production, we have got producers using AI for something called as stem splitting. So they are literally extracting the vocals from a track, or even AI session players like those in your Apple Logic Pro, which instantly add a realistic synth or a drum part that perfectly matches the rhythm of their sound. Now, these tools are actually lowering the barrier to entry. So, if you were a small business owner, you can now generate a high quality jingle or a brand consistent social media graphic without a massive production budget. But we also see some implications in terms of authorship and copyright battles. In fact, this could turn out to be a defining year for AI law. Courts are currently deciding on cases like Allen versus US Copyright Office, which asks, can an image generated by 600 iterative prompts be copyrighted by the human who wrote them? And the current guidance from the US Copyright Office and EU suggests that pure AI outputs cannot be copyrighted. To protect a work, there must be significant human creative control, meaning the person must have shaped, edited, and arranged the AI's output. To avoid this copyright purgatory, many enterprises are shifting towards ethical AI, like Adobe Firefly, which is trained only on licensed and public domain data, ensuring the brand doesn't face any lawsuits later on. So the new role could be that the artist would evolve from being a solo creator to a creative director. AI will not replace the why of art, which is human emotions, the message, the cultural context, but it is fundamentally changing the how. The most successful creators shouldn't be fighting the machine. They should be learning to play with it like a new instrument. So now we look into AI-powered power assistance and customer service. So AI most likely would no longer be a tool we just talk to because it has got the potential to become a system that understands us. Generative AI especially can move from generic replies to hyper-personalization. So in reality, the AI wouldn't just know your name, it would know your history, your real-time mood, your predicted needs. As a result, the personalization could evolve from a marketing add-on to becoming the core of the user experience. We have definitely moved beyond keyword matching. So thanks to the advances in natural language understanding, users can speak in complex, messy, emotional sentences, and the AI will still be able to extract the true intent. Multimodal personal assistants wouldn't just be text based. A user could show their assistant a photo of a broken appliance or a screenshot of a confusing bill, and the AI would understand the visual context to provide a solution. In fact, industry leaders like Gartner are predicting that nearly 10% of all customer interactions will get fully automated via conversational AI by end of the year. Businesses themselves are seeing a massive shift in their first response time. For some e-commerce leaders, AI has helped them drop their wait times from something like, say, 5 minutes to under 30 seconds, and handling about 60% of the queries without the human ever touching the ticket. The interesting thing is, of course, AI doesn't sleep, so customers could expect an instant answer at 3 a.m., not just at 3 p.m. Modern virtual agents can also switch between 15 plus languages instantly, and this could allow a small company to provide world-class native level support to a global audience without incurring the cost of a massive international call center. So the biggest trend that we could see could be proactive resolution. So instead of a customer asking, where is my refund? The AI could detect the bank's confirmation and proactively message the user, oh, your refund has cleared. Would you like me to help you find a replacement item? So when an AI does need to involve a human, it is not only just passing the buck, it is providing the agent with a full summary as well as something called sentiment analysis. So for example, say it would also say, oh, the customer is frustrated, and even suggest the draft of the solution. This could potentially reduce total resolution times by up to 30%. So the key takeaway here is that the chatbot is dead and is getting replaced by the AI agent. In fact, one of the future possibilities is that we could be moving towards a world where a customer's personal AI assistant talks directly to the company's AI agent, asking it to resolve a problem like a flight cancellation without either human ever picking up the phone. So if you look at the automation side of things in business operations, it's always about scaling efficiency. So probably it's now time to move past the experimentation phase because AI isn't just an add-on. It's almost like the operating system of the modern enterprise. There are definitely been some instances of what we can call autonomous enterprises. That doesn't mean that it's a business without people. It just means that there's a business where over 50% of routine processes are being run independently, allowing the organization to actually sense and react to market changes in real time. AI agents could potentially be handling the tier one part of the operations, things like processing invoices, reconciling accounts, managing supplier communications. Now, the goal here is to eliminate what we call the 60-second tax, which is all those small repetitive tasks like data entry, report formatting, that collectively drain hours from every work week. By automating roughly 60 to 70% of such repetitive tasks, we aren't just cutting costs, we are reclaiming the human side of it and ensuring that we can spend more time on creative problem solving and relationship building. If you look at beyond logistics, the supply chain would no longer be reactive. AI could move us from being just in time to just in anticipation. What do I mean by that? So companies could use the AI-enabled supply chains and see inventory levels drop while their service levels may already increase. So the AI could predict the demand fluctuation weeks in advance by analyzing everything from social trends to geopolitical signals, etc. In the warehouse, we could move to autonomous scaling and AI-powered logistics that could increase efficiency and reduce workplace accidents through predictive safety monitoring. So we are no longer limited by how much data a human can read. AI can process massive volumes of structured as well as unstructured data in seconds and find some hidden triggers that humans might miss. Decision cycles that used to take days can happen in hours, whether it be dynamic pricing or identifying a risk in a supplier contract. AI can be used to provide actionable recommendations and not just charts. Business leaders are also reporting that AI implementation could potentially improve their team's output. So the competitive advantage will belong to those organizations that can turn these insights into action before the market shifts. The key takeaway here is that automation is the foundation, but human judgment is the ceiling. So as we automate the doing, the employees become more of the directors. We are moving towards a future where operational excellence is technology driven, but business growth remains human inspired. If we now look into the robotics and autonomous vehicle sector, which is more of the physical AI side of it, The thing to understand is that for years, AI was almost like a brain without a body. So it lived on your screens, on the servers, and now we have entered the era of physical AI. We are moving away from rigid, pre-programmed machines towards adaptive systems. Traditional robots used to follow a script, but the new robots would actually follow a goal, and they would try to figure out the movement themselves. In 2024, a car could see a stop sign. Now, thanks to the vision language action or VLA models, a robot doesn't just see a box, it understands that the box is fragile, or perhaps it's heavy, or that it's blocking a high traffic aisle. We are seeing a massive adoption of multimodal sensor fusions. Robots now combine high resolution LiDAR, thermal imaging, tactile touch sensors, which is allowing them to operate in unstructured environments, places they have never been before, like messy construction sites or a busy hospital hallway. If you look at some leading systems like NVIDIA's Alpamayo, they are using 10 billion parameter reasoning models. This allows autonomous vehicles to think through rare scenarios, like a child chasing a ball or an erratic driver, rather than just reacting to pixels. Because of the built-in NPUs, that's the neural processing units, this planning allows locally on the vehicle or the robo with near zero latency. It doesn't need to ask the cloud, should I brake? It decides in milliseconds. And a key trend is that we no longer have to guess if a robo will work. We could work on building a digital twin in a simulation like Omniverse, train the AI there for 1,000 years of virtual time, and only then download that so-called brain into the physical hardware. So if you look at the applications which are transforming the sector, let's first look in the transportation side of it, or the robo-taxi reality. So in this year, the level 4 autonomy is hitting major cities globally. We are moving from driver assistance to software-defined mobility, where a car is almost acting like a mobile office or living room. In the manufacturing side of it, we are seeing humanoid robots coming in. So there's the first large-scale deployment of humanoid robots like Tesla's Optimus or Boston Dynamics Atlas, which are designed for brownfield facilities. Factories which were built for humans, having stairs and narrow aisles, etc. And the expectation is that it would help solve labor shortages without requiring a total factory rebuild. In the services sector, AI-powered cobots or collaborative robots are now the standard in logistics. They're not just moving pallets, they use agentic AI to detect an anomaly. For example, say a spill. They help to reroute the fleet and also call for maintenance autonomously. So the key takeaway is the physical AI revolution is where IT as an information technology meets OT as an operational technology. So in the future, we could see that most of the successful companies won't just have the best software, they will have the most intelligent physical fleets. So we aren't just automating labor, we are creating a world where machines can finally navigate the complexity of the human world. So if this hasn't scared you all, let's have a look at the future outlook and conclusion. Well, if we look towards the near horizon, some of the trends that we are definitely seeing is the fact that the video is becoming the new text. We have moved past simple image generation. By late 2026, generative video should become a standard for enterprise communication. We are also seeing some text to cinema workflows. So instead of having to look at month-long production cycles, marketing teams can generate high-fidelity 4K video ads in minutes using platforms like Sora or Veo. Video is thus becoming a living medium. You don't just watch it, you can direct it in real time. You can alter the lighting, the camera angles, or even a character's clothing mid-scene through simple text commands. The second part is the hyper personalization, or as I call it, the segment of one. Traditionally, marketing has targeted groups or demographics. Hyper personalization is targeting you as an individual specifically. Imagine a website that doesn't exist until you click a link, and the AI can analyze your behavior and write a customized website for you. Brands could also move towards branching narratives and adjust their tone, pacing based on the real time engagement data. In the science and medicine side of it, AI can act as the lab assistant. You have seen things like, say, the AlphaFold. We could see AI transition from modeling biology to designing it. We can have AI augmented molecular design, which could help with early drug discovery. We could move away from animal testing to digital twin simulations, where AI models of human biology will predict toxicity and efficacy and help compress drug development. And on the side of general AI, intelligence, while true AGI is still a debated horizon, this could become more of a specialized general intelligence era. New models like, say, the R series from DeepSeek, they have moved beyond predicting the next word. They now use internal inference loops and they are effectively thinking before they speak. So it could also help you with complex problem solving. Now, the key takeaway here is that AI is shifting from being a software update to a structural shift in how we function. And the divide between digital and physical intelligence will become nearly invisible. So, in summary, we are officially past the era of hallucinating chatbots. RAGs will no longer just be the technological choice, it will be the industry standard. Also, if 2024 was about chat, 2026 is about act. So autonomous agents will definitely be replacing legacy chatbots across the enterprise. And going from the bigger is better race, we will actually move towards the small language models, which are lean, fast, and private. And the governance would also have evolved to being a board level requirement with the enforcement of the EU AI Act. So the message is simple. The wait and see approach is only guaranteed to fail. Let's just not watch the trend. Let's experiment with it responsibly. Thank you.
Madhuparna Datta of Cadence, thank you very much. That was absolutely fascinating. We are coming up to the top of the hour or the half hour in other time zones. So if we do overrun by a couple of minutes, just to let everybody know if they have to disappear for a meeting or such like in the next couple of minutes, the recording of this Women in TechWorks Tech Talk will be available on the TechWorks YouTube channel. So, the first question that I've got for you, Madhuparna, is from Nishika. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. As an engineer, I have a moral conflict. I don't think AI will replace the people who are creating it,
Correct.
but it is potentially replacing the people who are in blue-collar jobs. I have seen it in local shops and restaurants with the number of self-checkouts and kiosks. The number of employees in those places has been reduced over the past couple of years.
Yes.
As much as it creates new jobs, but it is not creating new blue-collar jobs. And for some people who know with no other skills, this change can be huge if they are at the highest risk of losing their jobs. What is your reaction to all of that?
So I think this is reminding me of the time back to when the Industrial Revolution actually started. There was a lot of, let's just say, pullback from, people like, say, weavers or even who were using farming equipments because they felt that the machines would take away their jobs. I have a feeling we are at that same stage. Sometimes I feel that we seem to underestimate our own skills. So we tend to have this feeling that there is some inner limitation which stops us from moving beyond a certain limit. And I think I have always been of the mindset that we should not put limitations on ourselves. If we are coming across a challenge, and believe me, even though we may want to wish away AI, that's not going to go away. So the best thing that we should be doing is to see, okay, if this is going to come and going to change the landscape, where do I make my place in this new landscape? So I think that is what my reaction to this would be, that we should try to take it on board. We should try to figure out where do we land in the entire scheme of things. And I think that's where having presentations like this, where we are not trying to just look at people who technologically know about AI, but we are trying to reach all audiences because they should be understanding, all these buzzwords. What is an LLM? What is this so-called RAG stuff, etc., in simple terms. Because if you understand complex philosophies in simple terms, you also start thinking about, okay, now that I understand it, how can I make use of it?
Thank you very much for that answer. I've been with TechWorks for over 4 years now, and AI has always been coming, but I have to say that in the past 3 to 4 months, I've noticed that it is now firmly rooted in everyday life. I'll give you the first example of my own personal experience, Madhuparna. At Christmas time, I ordered a gift off a very famous website named after a river. And when it arrived, there was a problem with it. So I went on their chat service. I never spoke to a human being at any juncture in the process. I was given a refund. That was actioned immediately without
Exactly.
any human interaction. Another big thing which has happened recently, I don't know how much you're aware of this. This is a TikTok and Instagram phenomenon. There is an account called Chloe versus History. You're smiling and nodding, so I'm going to assume that you are at least somewhat familiar. So, the first video of Chloe versus History was posted on the 19th of February. On Instagram, it's already have had 548,000 followers. That's just over a month. There's been 19 videos posted so far. Now, for those unfamiliar, Chloe versus History. It's a young American woman, perhaps in her 20s, and she goes back in time to historical events such as the volcano at Pompeii just before it erupts. She's gone back to the time of the dinosaurs. She's gone back to Tudor England, etc. She's in all these different historical scenarios. And I thought it was an actress using a blue screen or something like that. It is 100% AI generated by a bald gentleman with glasses who lives in the Gloucestershire countryside. And I believe he's using a technology called Cdance, which is a professional video generator.
Yes.
So my question, when are we going to see things like the first complete Toy Story was the first computer generated animation movie. When are we going to see the first completely AI generated feature film at the cinema, which will be a controversial watershed moment for the creative industry, I would have thought. But when do you see AI progressing to such a level that it's in cinemas and it's on TV regularly?
So I definitely would believe that the current cinematic producers are already working to that end because you see, lots of video generating sort of companies coming up. Now, currently, what's happening is they are very good at generating those 5 second ultra high quality videos. When it becomes like say longer in length, that's when a little bit of the hallucination side of things comes in. I do not like to predict stuff as such, but I would think that you should at least see a shot. But when I say a shot, I mean something like say 10 minutes sort of animation videos definitely coming out, which looks quite fantastical because when initially Sora came out, they showed these magnificent, let's just say, imaginary creatures where you just describe them and then magically they seem to appear in before your eyes on the screen, etc. So I think it's going to be quite exciting, definitely.
Yeah, the creator of Chloe versus History said that he thinks the success is down to the fact that he's able to put human emotion into the Chloe character, which I think you touched upon before, that it really does need a human at the other side of it for to make it
Correct.
effective, doesn't it?
I think it's the
Um,
same for a lot of the Disney films, right? Like the reason we still like them is the emotional intent behind it. Like I still remember Frozen, and that storyline was amazing.
in a couple of months' time, here in Scotland, we're going to have Holyrood elections, the Scottish Parliament. Now, you've mentioned AI potentially affecting elections and referenda. How far away are we from propaganda generated by AI, fake video footage of politicians saying something that they shouldn't? How far away are we from that?
I think we have already seen
Are we already here?
yes, absolutely. I think this is where the AI ethics part of it is so important, and why I talked about regulation and so on and so forth, and why things like the EU AI Act, etc., is so important. Because unless and until you put in some legal liabilities for doing such things, people are anyways going to get away scot-free. So I think the way I've always looked at these things is we have to become uh, more alert to certain things. So, for example, say, even if you get a video which seemingly looks like a real video, try to cross check different, you could say, sources of media before you conclude that it is actually a real person saying those things. And I think this is just, for me, it is common sense because I always try to, in my mind, whenever I see something which seems slightly controversial, first try to understand, but why would this have been said in the first place? And I try to sort of go back into the logical side of things, etc. But that's probably because I am definitely a very logic-minded person. And that's what I can just advise others that instead of instantly getting triggered, try to take a pause, understand, is this actually for real? And then sort of go about formulating your decisions around it.
I can't remember the details specifically, but I think during the last UK general election, there was some audio came out of Keir Starmer not being very nice to one of his staff members, and I think there was an official denial that it was genuine. So I think that is already here, isn't it? Unless it was genuine, of course. They were just
No comments.
Okay, you've got a lot of praise coming in on the chat. Let's have a look and just mention some of these comments before we wrap up. Great presentation. Thank you from Gabriella. Julian, this was amazing. Uh, Oana, thank you so much for your fantastic presentation. You mentioned that agentic AI is becoming similar in capabilities to a junior engineer. This is a question. What changes do you think universities need to make in order to ensure graduate skills are relevant for today's industry?
I love this question. So the way I've always looked at things is even though someone can do the task, eventually you have to also be able to ask the right questions. So it's not always about having all the answers. It's also about knowing how to ask the right questions. So what do I mean by that? So yes, the agent could potentially, if you say that I want to do this task, it can then break that task into subtasks and help you on the way. But you should always be, of the mindset of asking, but how did you come up with this set? Like, why could it not have been in another way? Because that is where you will understand the reasoning behind that reply that you got from that agent, and that is what will help you with the skills part of it. Now, when it comes on to the what universities can do, I think my answer is going to be that just stay abreast of what's happening because we are currently in a phase where the technology is changing at a very rapid rate. And the only way that you could perhaps stay in the game is to be at least aware, be aware of what's happening around you. So, like I myself, being a tech geek, I usually spend at least a couple of hours every day just reading up on the latest and greatest that is, happening around me, etc. And also try and test stuff. When I said that, your challenges don't just watch the trend, experiment with it responsibly, just formulate a plan for yourself. For example, say as a step one, you can identify one high impact, low risk pilot. It could be just about how do I go about doing an internal knowledge retrieval in my system. Then you should surround it by some governance. Then you should measure the ROI part of it. So what I mean is that experiment with everything. I can tell you, one thing that I did just yesterday. So I was trying to automate something. I had a series of images which had very unwieldy names, and I wanted to be able to look inside that image, find out the company name, and rename the image to, have the company name also inside it. And I had never heard about Power Automate, but lovely Microsoft Copilot taught me about it. And I went about, spending a couple of hours on it. And I was amazed by the variety of built-in functions that are there in order to help you. So the main thing that you have to actually cultivate is to have, like say, a way of trying to at least break down a task into subtasks and then forming more like, say, in your mind, how do I really go about achieving it? And that sort of skill will never fade with time. It will always be something which can help you learn something new. That's my take on it, at least.
All right, fantastic. Okay, we have run over. We did say that this would be a 60-minute broadcast, but here we are, 11 minutes over. Just before we wrap things up, I just want to give a mention to the next online event from Women in TechWorks. It'll be on Thursday, 23rd of April at 4 p.m. GMT. A Women in TechWorks fireside chat on how to move from individual contributor to leader in a male-dominated environment. That's going to be with Ellie Brammer, who is an engineering manager at ARM. She'll be talking from two perspectives. Firstly, her own experience moving into leadership, and secondly, as a leader, what I look for in high potential juniors and the behaviors that are helpful. And the last thing that I want to mention just before we go is the first Women in TechWorks in-person event. That's going to take place at ARM in Cambridge on Wednesday, the 17th of June. It will be bringing together women and allies from across the semiconductor and technology ecosystem. Women in TechWorks is dedicated to fostering connection, mentorship, visibility, leadership, and inclusion, helping to create stronger pathways for women to develop and thrive in deep tech. The link for more about that aforementioned fireside chat and the Women in TechWorks in-person event are both on Zoom chat. If you're watching live, click on them now, open them in a new tab before Zoom disappears and takes everything else with it. Madhuparna Datta in Cambridge of Cadence, thank you so much for your time. That was absolutely fascinating. I could talk to you about this stuff all day. Unfortunately, we don't have time, but I'm very grateful for your presentation today. So thank you very much indeed. That brings us to the end of today's Women in TechWorks Tech Talk. We'll see you again next time. For now, bye-bye.